Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out in Belfast. After a week in Dublin as well too, the tour continues. I did go home very tired, very knackered. Not as knackered and tired as you, Eddie, but business needs to be done this weekend by both Mick Conlan and Jordan Gill and fighters on the undercard, but good fights in prospect.
Yeah, really good night. I mean, look, last week was mad, wasn't it? I mean, I think we're lucky. I'm going to start the press conference this week by saying, imagine a world where it was big fight after big fight after big fight after big fight. Well, welcome to the world of Matchroom and Design, because that's what we've got, especially now when you talk about last week, you talk about Belfast. Can't believe Haney Prograis is next week. Then you've got Sonny trying to unify. I mean, I remember when Sonny was 13 weeks out, you know, we were putting the graphics out. It's coming up in like 2 weeks. And then, of course, the Day of Reckoning. So we're just so lucky. Last week was really special. I believe we're going to get another tremendous night of boxing this Saturday as well. And like you said, massive moments for Mick Conlan and Jordan Gill. You know, probably career ending, in all honesty, for both if they don't come through.
A little bit cheesy, but cheesy sells, and you sure know how to sell. Fights in the card that sell as well too. That Kevin Ajako versus Troy Williams, a fight, good fighting prospect.
Really good fight. And, you know, respect to Kevin for taking the fight. Respect as well for Troy for stepping up. And I think that, you know, it's the perfect fight for Kevin Ajako, because he talks about headlining in Belfast and he sold a lot of tickets for this fight. This is the kind of fight where we're going to see what he's made of. You know, people see it as a 50-50 fight. We believe if he's a, you know, the talent that we believe he is, he should be victorious on Saturday night, but it'll be a war. And that's what we want. Tyrone McKenna against Lewis Crocker, unbelievable fight, Battle of Belfast. Even Sean McComb against Sam Maxwell. You know, we've got Lele Buttigieg as well. We've got Cameron Vong as well on the card. Some all-Irish fights, another top night.
Top night indeed. You mentioned there about this being make or break for Conlan or Gill, but what's the next step for them? I believe in another interview, I think it might be in IFL, you said that the winner could potentially take on Lee Wood, if possible.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can't sort of forget about the Lee Wood-Michael Conlan fight. I mean, fight of the year, knockout of the year, the most dramatic fight I've probably ever seen live. But it is definitely within my mind to make Josh Warrington against Lee Wood as well for the City Ground. But Michael Conlan has this great ability where he sells everywhere he goes. You saw the Irish there that night. There'll be around 7,000 on Saturday night in Belfast. He can fight in Madison Square Garden. He could take huge following to Cardiff to fight Joe Caldina. So if he wins and looks good, oh, he's walking into a big fight. But Jordan Gill's going to roll the dice because he can come along and grab those fights as well. Not the Lee Wood one, because that's his mate, but all the other opportunities. So for Michael, it's a big night, new weight division, new trainer, and yeah, must win.
Boxing is a developing world, and as we've seen in the news, the latest developments regarding Conor Benn and his situation. Can you set the table, first of all, Eddie? On TalkSport, Robert Smith said the application for Conor Benn's licence was rejected. What's the situation there going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's lovely to hear it on TalkSport and to hear a full explanation. I mean, a lot of what he said was completely untrue, and that will be dealt with today by Conor's legal team, and you'll be hearing from the board soon on that. To say that he hasn't gone through the appropriate channels is the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard in my life. Firstly, he went through the WBC channels. He was cleared of any wrongdoing and reinstated in the rankings. Then he decided to go through the UK channel as well, and he won that case. His suspension was lifted. Conor Benn is clear to fight. At the moment, there is no point in saying too much or no point in arguing because we haven't made the fight. And until we make the fight, there's nothing really to talk about. So it's very nice of Robert to appear on TalkSport yesterday and really have no conversations with us, but thank you. And you have to ask yourself, what is it about Conor Benn that is making the board behave so differently to other fighters in the same or worse situations in the past? There are other huge profile world champions that got dealt with in a completely different manner. All we want is a fair process for Conor Benn and for him to be treated the same as everybody else. Why is he be treated so differently? He's not suspended. He's cleared to box. But until that moment comes where we do have a fight, it doesn't really matter. But I'm doing everything I can to secure that fight for February the 3rd at Tottenham. And when we get it signed, then we'll deal with the outcome.
The question I want to ask you on that is, Eddie, regarding what your place might be in the fight. If the British Boxing Board of Control aren't willing to sanction the fight, and they're willing to potentially, if you do go forward with that, impose sanctions on those involved in the fight, do you have to put in plans in place to separate for yourself? Are those discussions, have they taken place?
I mean, until we make the fight, I'm not thinking too deeply on that. If we make the fight, if we get the fight signed, the fight's happening. So, you know, again, we have to stand up for ourselves in what we believe is fair, but also, where we can, we always want to respect the rules if the rules are being applied in the correct fashion. So, in answer to your question, which was a good one, lots of potential outcomes. But right now, just focusing on actually getting the fight signed. And until we do, none of it really matters.
Things I want to whiz through, first of all. What is the situation with the rights regarding the Day of Reckoning? Does DAZN have the rights? But there's a feeling maybe that with the statement that more additional broadcasters will be involved. Is that the case? TNT, potentially Sky Sports?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I'm not involved in the distribution of where those rights go. But as you know, the official announcement has come where DAZN have the global rights for that fight. Now, if there's conversations with DAZN, just speaking as an outsider, and Saudi to place them on additional outlets to increase reach or whatever, you've seen that recently with ESPN taking some of DAZN's fights. That's a conversation that will take place. I guess, not knowing too much, can't rule it out. But again, that'll be an announcement made by DAZN and Saudi Arabia regarding if there's going to be any additional platforms.
That's a quick one, Eddie. Carl Froch says his confidence in the Fury Usyk fight isn't there. Are you confident in that fight happening? Yeah, happening because Tyson Fury would want a nice Christmas.
Yeah, probably, because there's a huge amount of money. And when there's a huge amount of money, generally things happen. Hopefully, we see the fight.
Cheers, Eddie. Appreciate it. Cheers. One stage state on the front.